Did you know San Andreas has over 100 lines of dialogue that you can't hear, not because it was all cut from the game, but because those lines of dialogue simply don't work due to typos and incorrect configurations. For example, this dialogue doesn't play in the original game.
I thought you were better than that.
Well, this has all been fixed thanks to another massive update to SilentPatch. This update applies to GTA 3, Vice City and San Andreas, fixing a lot of issues across the trilogy. So let's take a look at what we've got. In all three games, lens flare is commonly used. You see it when looking at the sun, you see it when looking at sirens in GTA 3 and Vice City, you see it when looking at fire in San Andreas. But unfortunately, across all games, the lens flare effect doesn't scale with resolution correctly. This means as you increase your resolution, lens flare gets smaller than Rockstar originally intended. SilentPatch now fixes lens flare across the trilogy, so it now scales with resolution correctly, remaining the same size no matter what resolution you're playing at. The Rhino in San Andreas had headlights and taillights added by an artist at Rockstar who developed the model, but they don't work. This is because the Rhino in GTA 3 and Vice City doesn't have any lights, and there was code added to exclude them from rendering lights. This code remained in San Andreas and was never updated for the newer model. SilentPatch now removes this code and the lights on the Rhino now work again. Like I said in the intro, San Andreas has a lot of dialogue that you simply don't hear because Rockstar made typos or configured things poorly when it came to the dialogue setup. This new update fixes as many of those issues as possible, bringing a lot of new dialogue to San Andreas that has always existed, was always intended to be in the game, but it's simply never played. I'll cover some of the issues, but keep in mind this is only a small portion of these dialogue fixes. First up, when aiming at an NPC, CJ often speaks to the person he's aiming at.
You know what this is, huh?
This has always worked. However, what didn't work is the dialogue CJ could say when actually firing at someone. This is a controller setup specific bug. When using auto-aim, which is usually used for controllers, CJ's lines for shooting people will work okay.
Now will you be quiet?
But when using free aim with a mouse, these lines wouldn't play at all. This SilentPatch update now allows these lines of dialogue to play when firing with a mouse and keyboard. So if you only played San Andreas this way, you should hear a lot of new dialogue that you didn't hear before.
Hey, ain't this fun? Just fuck you then. You having a good day now, asshole?
When CJ takes over a turf, he was always meant to comment on the success of the takeover at the end. The audio could be specific to each turf location as well. Unfortunately, this dialogue was set up incorrectly, and instead when you take over a turf, it tries to give that dialogue to any members of Grove Street you might have with you. But it fails because they have no dialogue relating to this, like CJ has. SilentPatch fixes this so CJ will comment at the end of a turf takeover.
Jefferson belong to Grove Street now. We run Willowfield. We blame society. East Los Santos is ours now. Come on, buddy boy.
Staff in clothing shops and restaurants in San Andreas have dialogue when you spook them or aim a weapon at them, but unfortunately this was broken for barbers and ammunition owners, so they wouldn't say anything even though they were meant to. SilentPatch fixes this so both will now play dialogue correctly. The ammunition owner had over 15 lines for this event alone.
Ask our salesman about every sportsman's favorite, the
Communist! Pass a bit to make my bag. Damn Eagle Warrior!
Kiplam abandon ye! What's up, dude?
Come on, CJ, take a seat. Not you too, CJ! I thought you were better than that.
Due to an oversight, every type of cop in San Andreas uses single-handed weapons other than the pistols, just like gangsters would, with one leg in front of the other. Almost like they're straight outta
Rolling Heights baller country.
SilentPatch fixes this oversight so cops no longer shoot exactly like gangsters as it was never intended. NPCs in GTA 3 generally don't use the sniper rifle unless you do Vigilante in Shoreside Vale, where enemies are meant to have the strongest weapons, or you use the cheat which gives pedestrians weapons. But even in those two instances, those NPCs that will have the sniper rifle won't be able to use it. They will try to shoot, but it simply won't work. Funnily enough, if an NPC is trying to shoot you with a sniper and you aim with a weapon in first person, you will then get shot by that sniper.
What? She's my cousin? I swear I thought she was my second girl.
This is because Rockstar only made code for the player firing the sniper rifle. So when you go into first person, the bullet that the NPC is trying to shoot will be shot from your first person camera. But because it's not the player shooting the bullet, you're not immune to it, and instead the bullet hits you and causes damage. Normally when you shoot in first person, you're immune because shooters are always immune to their own shots in GTA 3. SilentPatch fixes this so NPCs can now shoot sniper rifles correctly. RPGs are also broken in GTA 3 and Vice City when used by NPCs. The only time you'll see NPCs using them is during the mission SAM in GTA 3, when doing vigilante missions in Shoreside Vale, or once again using the pedestrian weapons cheat. When an NPC tries to fire an RPG, the projectile spawns inside of them and explodes instantly. This makes the entire thing a bit pointless. SilentPatch fixes this so the projectile fires from the correct position. In San Andreas, you'll often hear a random explosion when you travel near Fort Carson. This is due to a plane, the Beagle specifically, spawning in a driveway at one of the houses, causing it to blow up almost instantly. Silent provides a decent explanation for this mistake. Vehicles, like many things in San Andreas, are given unique IDs. San Andreas has 3 push bikes: the bike, mountain bike, and BMX. The generic bike is ID 509, the mountain bike is ID 510, and you'd assume the BMX is ID 511. Nope, it's 481. ID 511 is the Beagle. So it's safe to assume a developer wanted to set a spawn point for a BMX at one of the houses and accidentally set the Beagle to spawn there instead because they assumed ID 511 would be the BMX. Fort Carson is a bike-heavy town as well, with several different spawn points for motorbikes, as well as a mountain bike spawn on the other side of the town. So it's safe to assume they were planning to put a BMX here and not a Beagle. The new SilentPatch update fixes this so the BMX will spawn here instead, and the citizens of Fort Carson can rest easy. In San Andreas, there was meant to be a script command that allowed the developers to spawn birds when needed. It was only used once in the mission Ice Cold Killer during a small cutscene, but nobody seemed to notice that the command didn't actually work and the birds never actually spawned. SilentPatch fixes this so birds will correctly spawn when the command is used. So if you are normal like me, you've obviously pushed a boat from sea to your safe house to park it in your garage in GTA 3 as a humble brag. But you are also probably disappointed when you found it crashed your game once you tried to retrieve it. Worst of all, if you saved the game, it meant the garage containing the boat was no longer usable as it would always cause this crash. Thankfully, SilentPatch fixes this so boats can safely be stored in garages with no problems. Plus, if you had a save that had a boat in it before, you can install this new version of SilentPatch and retrieve the boat safely. In GTA 3, if a road model had a rotation of 90 degrees, roadblocks set up by the police wouldn't account for the rotation and would be facing the wrong way. SilentPatch fixes this so roadblocks will now account for the rotation of the road and will appear correctly. Roadblocks in Vice City didn't have the rotation issue, but they did have an issue where SWAT and FBI agents that spawned at roadblocks wouldn't fire their weapon. They have the weapons in their inventory, but due to leftover code from GTA 3, the weapons weren't equipped. SilentPatch now fixes this. In GTA 3, how gangs spawn is very buggy. In the PC port, you might notice that sometimes you'll see gang members all randomly standing still in completely different scenarios. This is actually a very interesting bug. So what happens is, gangs can either spawn solo or they'll spawn in groups of 2 to 4. Gang members that spawn in groups are meant to be in a circular type of formation like this, with a leader in the middle that all the other gang members look towards. This is similar to how gangs spawn in Vice City. This is because code from Vice City leaked into the PC port of GTA 3. However, this gangster circle formation code is unfinished in the PC port of GTA 3, and you'll almost never actually see gangs standing in a circle like this. What happens instead is, the group spawns as a circle like this. Almost every time it immediately disbands and they all walk in random directions. The leader of the circle isn't coded correctly, so shortly after, he will freeze, and when he freezes, any gangsters that are in his vicinity, whether they were part of his group or not, will also freeze. And that's how you get situations like this. Silent looked into the code on PS2 to see how it works there, found issues with that code as well, and was also able to work out how gang formations were intended to work in GTA 3. In footage of early GTA 3 builds, we can see gangs walking in formation rather than standing around like Vice City. The code on PS2 proves this was what Rockstar always intended, and it could be in groups of 2 to 4. But before release, Rockstar identified an issue with these formations, as the gangsters could sometimes spawn on top of vehicles or other NPCs. They tried to fix it, couldn't, and said "F this," and simply disabled formations entirely. So on PS2, gangsters were meant to spawn either solo or in groups of 2 to 4 that walk in formation, but instead they only spawned solo, and due to this and the way GTA 3 spawns NPCs overall, there's also a 50% chance that when the game tries to spawn gangsters on PS2, nothing will spawn, reducing gang density overall unintentionally. And we thought returning to Portland was hard before. On PC, gangsters spawn either solo or in groups of 2 to 4 like originally intended, but their formation is broken and they spawn in a circle that immediately disbands. The leader of the group will eventually freeze and will then cause nearby gangsters to freeze as well. This is all due to incomplete Vice City code being left in the GTA 3 PC port. So SilentPatch removes the broken Vice City code, restores the walking around in groups formations that Rockstar originally intended before release, and fixes the code they couldn't fix before so this formation works correctly. There's also an additional option which restores PS2 spawning behavior where gangsters only spawn alone, but it also fixes the issue where there's a 50% chance of gangsters not spawning at all when they attempt to spawn. You can find this option in the mod's config file. In Vice City, the canopy roof on the Rio is an extra component, meaning that the vehicle should sometimes spawn with or without the canopy roof. Unfortunately, extra components are only supported on cars and bikes in Vice City, so the canopy roof on the Rio was a permanent addition. SilentPatch adds extra component support to boats, allowing them to have 6 extras and making the roof canopy randomly spawn as intended by the designer of that vehicle. As well as that, a spinning radar on the Tropic wasn't functional due to a typo and a code error. SilentPatch also fixes this. The Skimmer in Vice City also has issues. The elevators on the rear wing only animate when using the left analog stick on a controller. They'd remain static when controlled by a keyboard. As well as that, the moving parts snap to inputs instead of animating smoothly. SilentPatch fixes the Skimmer so it animates regardless of input, and the animation is now smooth like other moving parts throughout the game. The stingers that cops could use to pop your tires in Vice City was coded quite poorly. They could even possibly crash your game in very rare instances, usually when speedrunning. The code for stingers has been cleaned up and the crash has also been fixed. In Vice City, there's a heat haze effect that appears from your vehicle exhaust when you have the trails option on. However, this heat haze effect also doesn't scale to resolution correctly, and in this case, it gets bigger the the higher your resolution. So if you're playing at 4K, the effect is covering much more of the screen than intended. This has now been fixed and the effect will scale correctly at all resolutions. And lastly, this effect disappeared completely when the current location or vehicle name was shown on screen. This has also been fixed. San Andreas on PC had an issue where the 8 PM rainy countryside line in the game's time cycle is missing values at the beginning, which causes the entire line to be read wrong. So at 7 PM, rain in the countryside looks like this. And then an hour later at 8 PM it looks like this. While you can normally fix this by using the PS2 time cycle, SilentPatch now adds a fallback so 8 PM during this time no longer looks broken. And that's about it for this video. While I've covered a lot, there's still so much more I didn't even get to. This is probably the biggest content update ever for SilentPatch, and Silent has made a post on his website which covers all of the new changes with technical details and interesting facts that you will very likely be interested in if you enjoyed this video. Once again, the community shows how important modding is and how valuable it can be. Anyway, if you enjoyed this video, please give it a like. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you later.